Good morning, guys. It is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. This is Bathrobe Business. I'm Georgi Oganov. I got my coffee and I got the news. So let's jump into it. I've got a bunch of stories I'm going to hit you guys with kind of rapid fire, and then we'll get to the main story that I think is the most interesting of the day. So the first story is about Netflix. So Netflix is getting into the streaming of sports. So Netflix is going to be streaming WWE Raw starting next year. It looks like it's going to be a 10-year contract, unreported as to how much. At least I have not found the report as to how much they paid for this, but they are going to be streaming this in place, I believe, of USA. So traditionally, WWE Raw has been streaming on USA. It is now going to be streaming, I believe, exclusively on Netflix. So this was probably worth a pretty penny. Now, this is going to be an interesting story because this is changing up Netflix's model. So as we know, Netflix has always been the binge service. They've never really done live TV, and they've never really done sports, period. If you wanted sports, that's Hulu. They have an ESPN package that you can add on. It's interesting that even other services like YouTube have some sports capabilities that you can watch. Rumble, which is a name that isn't often mentioned, is the contract for streaming pay-per-view events for MMA. It's also interesting that this did not go to Rumble, seeing as how Rumble's parent company, MMA's parent company, UFC's parent company, is the one that owns WWE now. But no, it looks like it's going to Netflix. So Netflix is experimenting with streaming sports in its first real major foray. Now, here's the interesting thing. This may be exclusively streaming on their ad revenue side. So remember, they're going to have two packages. I believe they already have two packages. One where you have the traditional Netflix zero ads, and the other one, a slightly lower monthly payment, where you are going to be getting ads. I believe this is going to actually be on the ad side, or at least even if you have the upgraded membership like a lot of us do, this one is going to have ads. So this is kind of a major shakeup, considering that Netflix traditionally has always been ad-free. Their claim to fame was, we will never do advertisements. Well, that's not true. They will. And I think it's inevitable that most of these streaming services will as well, because the monthly membership just does not pay for itself. A lot of these businesses are based mostly off of valuation and not on actual income and flow, because you constantly have to create new content. So I think the ad service is going to expand and become more and more of the standard until eventually your premium membership, all it does is reduce the number of ads you have, not get rid of them entirely. So this is launching next year, and it's going to be a major push for Netflix, and we'll see how this turns out. Next story. J&J reported record profits, but that's not the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is they are entering into Medicare negotiations with the government. So they are going to be negotiating the price of Stelara and Xarelto, two major blood thinners, and they're going to be negotiating with the federal government directly. This isn't exactly the first time, but this is a new trend that pharmaceutical companies are now having to enter direct negotiation with the federal government. This isn't going to take effect until 2026, so we still got a few more years, and drug negotiations still mean that it's going to mean a vastly low number. It could just mean that they fix the price for X amount of years based on a certain contract or a certain guarantee. I don't really know how that's going to work, because a lot of times purchasing contracts are based on volume, right? I promise I'm going to purchase this much in your product, and you give it to me in this price. The federal government can't do that. But what it will probably do is say, look, in a year, this many people use your product. That gives you this much revenue. At least lock the price in for at this certain amount for the next 5, 6 years, etc. So I have a feeling that's how the negotiation is going to go. Next story is about P&G. So this, I think, is an interesting story because it illustrates how inflation truly ends. So after roughly 2 years of higher prices on their Charmin toilet paper and Downy fabric softeners, consumers have pulled back on their purchases of P&G products. This also includes Tide products as well. So a lot of times you hear stories of, oh, this is greedflation, this is companies taking advantage of inflation. That narrative doesn't make any sense, because there's no such thing as greedflation, there's only inflation. This is how markets work. Companies will charge as much as possible for a product as they can get on the open market. That's what P&G has done. Now, the market has reacted. Because P&G is charging so heavily, people are no longer buying their products and going to a generic alternative. the P&G can now decide, are they going to maintain the current prices? Are they going to start cutbacks? Are they just going to fix it and wait for the others to catch up? This is literally how the market works. There is no such thing as greedflation. It's this. It's people buying and selling products, and you get as much as you can for your product, and if your product isn't selling, you lower the price. So I think this is a very important story that really illustrates how the market works, because this is how inflation ends. It's not about, I mean, obviously interest rates play a factor in it, but it's not anything the federal government can do. In an open market, it's just buying and selling of products. I believe most of the people that listen to my channel understand that. I think that you guys are in business or understand business as well as I do, that know that this is how the market actually works, but I feel like it needs to be underscored from time to time. Last story. This is the interesting one. So, MrBeast launched a video on X. Why this is important, I'm going to illustrate a couple different things. Now, I'm not the biggest MrBeast fan. I actually don't watch MrBeast all that much. I think I've maybe seen his videos a handful of times in my entire life. What I do often listen to is his interviews, because I think he's a brilliant marketer, probably the best that's ever lived, right? He has the world's largest YouTube channel, and not even by a little bit, but by massive exponential scales. He's worldwide. He's in multiple languages, multiple countries, etc. So what's interesting about this is every time I've listened to a MrBeast interview, he has never had any interest in any other platform other than YouTube. People have asked him, what if Netflix offers you a contract? What about launching on Rumble, launching on Twitter, etc.? Especially since a lot of these are free services. He could literally just run his videos in parallel. He always said that he never had much interest. Well, Elon Musk got him to launch a video on X. This is mainly because MrBeast is actually a fan of Elon Musk. So Elon Musk was able to woo him for one video so far onto X. And it made about $263,000 in revenue for MrBeast. That's not a huge number for him, but what this illustrates is a major move for X. So X is trying to woo as much talent as possible. They famously did Tucker Carlson last year, but they're trying to diversify with more and more offerings. This is something that has not been happening with the company in previous years. And it seems like a lot of these internet companies, especially the ones that are offering free products, are trying to attract talent as much as possible. So for example, I mentioned Rumble earlier. So Dave Portnoy, who actually has a media empire, Barstool Sports has multiple podcasts, multiple entertainment facets. They are all moving over to Rumble in an exclusive contract. That is also because Dave Portnoy got a percentage of ownership in the company, but doesn't matter. He's exclusively with Rumble. I know Russell Brand does a lot of stuff with Rumble. Steven Crowder does a lot of stuff with Rumble. But a lot of those are political figures, whereas Barstool Sports is not political. It's entirely sports and podcasts. MrBeast is not political either. He is purely entertainment. So it seems like the big trend in these companies is going to be to try to lure big-name talent into them, almost like movie studios did. So you can watch MrBeast on this platform. You can watch Barstool Sports on this platform. And I think this is a major move for X. If they can do this successfully and move ahead aggressively, you can see a lot more of these things where you've got major entertainers moving into these platforms, so that Twitter is no longer just about posting a tweet. It's about where you go to get certain content, specific content. And that this isn't a small move for X, for Twitter, whatever you call it. I think this is a major move that isn't really being talked about, and is a major trend in a lot of these industries that isn't being talked about. This, I would say, is like the equivalent of taking Joe Rogan to Spotify. Now, there's no exclusivity here, but I wouldn't be surprised if on the back end there is something major going on, because MrBeast has always been adamant about not posting on any platform other than YouTube. And here he is on a different platform, and of all platforms, he chooses X, which isn't traditionally for video, right? Twitter is about text-based social media. It's not based on video. Obviously, they've had video for a while, but it's never been a push. But Elon is definitely pushing that. The other interesting thing is Twitter is naturally geared at virality, which is something nobody ever talks about. So what I mean by that is you can't retweet a YouTube video, right? There's no way, like, to forward a YouTube video, you just copy the link and paste it. Whereas Twitter allows you to retweet things. So the MrBeast video you can make go viral very aggressively on Twitter that you technically couldn't traditionally on YouTube, because with YouTube it's the algorithm, But with Twitter, it's actual physical movement of people. They can actually forward this video to each other or to their walls, etc. So Twitter has a lot of potential for massive virality that traditionally has not been taken advantage of because they have not pushed video or picture or entertainment. They focus primarily on text. So this is a major restructuring for Twitter. The other big news is, I actually think this is a minor story, but everybody is making this into a big thing, is that it was artificially pushed. That Elon Musk was pushing this as an unlabeled ad, and that's why it went as high as it did. I don't think that actually matters. All that matters is the views, the impressions, and the revenue. So 263,000 in revenue, 156 million impressions, 5 million engagements, etc. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else, the mechanism of how that works, does not matter at all. That's it. That's my last story of the day. I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a productive day, and I'll see you in the morning. Thanks.